guys? Feel free to stop me anytime if you have any questions about what I'm presenting. I'm talking about why you should take your math classes seriously. Is anybody here considering math education?
Engineering, if that counts.
Yeah, where are you thinking about going to college?
Grand Valley or Michigan State.
What are you looking to go into?
Electronic engineering.
Oh, great, great. Yeah, all those are like really math-based, and I guess I'll talk about that a little bit more. So, I know I'm sure you guys are familiar with the go ahead. Sorry, the recent unemployment and how it's increased over twofold in the last 10 years, and I'm kind of going to touch on how getting an education in math can help you weather the storm. And do you guys have a plan, and when you graduate from college, like what you plan on doing? I know engineering or electronics engineering and things like that, but anybody else? I'm sure there's a lot of healthcare sector out there.
How many medical? How many healthcare? Okay, there's quite a few. In the ed tech program that I was talking about, I think that there's a few go up. Anybody go out to the ed tech engineering program?
I go for the medical one,
Yeah,
but it's not through EdTech, it's through university.
Okay, how about business? Because that's actually where Ravi started. Who wants to go into business?
Yeah, I started out as a business major in 2007 at Kettering. So, does anybody think about going to Kettering? No? All right, that's cool. It's a really small school, so But I guess next slide. I think one of the best ways to tackle this unemployment storm would be to take a look at the top 10 jobs list. I mean, if you want a job, obviously, getting the top 10 one would be a good place to start. You look here, I have the jobs listed out. I think this is from Business Week, and the median salary is next to them. Software engineers, $87,000. Mathematician, $94,000 a year. Actuaries are $87,000. Statisticians, $73,000, and computer systems analysts, $77,000. Has anybody ever heard what an actuary is?
No.
All right, that's actually what I do. I don't know exactly how to explain it, so you guys will. I guess we'll kind of explore that together, but I'll explain that later. Go ahead to the next slide. The next slide, I actually took away all the jobs that aren't necessarily directly related to math. And if you look at it, there's still 5 jobs remaining up here. The lowest of which is $73,000 a year. I mean, I think that's a pretty good place to start then. If 5 out of the top 10 jobs are dealing directly with education and math. Any questions so far?
What does a mathematician do that it makes $94,000?
Mathematicians. All right. So I went to Kettering, and as you know, this is just an example of something a mathematician might do. So I went to Kettering, and as you know, they work for 3 months, then go to school for 3 months. Well, every couple of months, there's usually a job fair for people looking for jobs, and the CIA and the FBI will show up, and you give them your resume, and if they like you, they won't tell you what the job is, and they'll start conducting interviews. And I had a lot of my friends go through the process, and they would come and interview me about my friends, and because they have to get security clearance and all this stuff. So basically, you'd be dealing with intelligence data, this is just one example of what a mathematician could do. I think what my friend told me, wasn't supposed to, but what he did was that he was like analyzing financial transactions, overseas financial transactions, monitoring for terrorist activity or other illegal activity. So is there any other questions? I heard you guys are like the best class as far as interactions. So you better live up to the hype.
There's a few key ones that are at tennis. So.
Oh no.
You got to pick up the slack.
I'll try.
Okay.
So next slide. All right, now I'm going to talk a little bit about what an actuary is. One of the best ways to describe it, I guess, is with an analogy. I read this a couple weeks ago. It was actuaries are to risk as lion tamers are to lions. So basically, we tame the risk. A more rigorous definition would be financial impact of risk and uncertainty. We help prepare companies for that. Has anybody here ever had a surgery? What kind of surgery?
Medical people. Maybe
Yeah.
this is for you.
What kind of surgeries have you guys had? All right, so no, that's a perfect example. So you have your tonsils removed and they cut you open, and you know, I don't know if there's use sponges necessary for this, but we can pretend, right?
Let's say they're some more major surgery.
I got a surgery.
Okay, Harry.
I got my wisdom tooth taken out.
You know, you can still run the bell.
All right, we'll
Talk about, okay, let's just say I got open heart surgery.
There you go, open heart surgery. All right, so you open up and they put a bunch of sponges in you to absorb all the blood that's going everywhere. Sorry to be a little, graphic. But, so say they put 10 sponges in you, and then at the end of the surgery, they take all the sponges out and didn't do a proper sponge count, and they only took out 9. So you have some sponge floating around inside of you. And it happens all the time. And then, so now you're going to go into recovery. You start to heal and your wounds aren't healing properly, you have an infection, and lo and behold, you actually have a sponge left inside of you. So they need to do surgery again, go in, take the new sponge out, or the old sponge out. After this, you're probably going to file a lawsuit for medical malpractice, right? All right. So now there's thousands of these things happening every day to all these hospitals. Like, how do you think they handle the financial impact of all these lawsuits? Like, legal fees are extremely expensive, and these payouts can be millions of dollars. Pretty much, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, because when you go to the emergency room, the hospital is still in business, regardless of all this uncertainty and risk that they're exposing themselves to. So what will happen is, this is just a hospital professional liability example that I'm using here. But what will happen is hospitals will send me the number of doctors they have, the number of beds they have, the number of nurses they have, all these different exposures. And they'll send me like a claims history from like 1970, so just thousands of claims. We'll take all of that data, analyze it, realize the trends in it, and then apply certain actuarial methods to it. And that'll give us ultimates in, when I say ultimates, I mean they're ultimate losses that they need to be concerned with. This all goes into reserves, which is how much money the hospital needs to keep on hand in order to take care of all of these expenses. And this also helps them determine what amount of insurance they should have. So, sorry, am I going too fast, or any questions? Yeah.
The auto liability is probably a good analogy for this particular class because we have a couple speed racers.
Oh, speed racers? Who's the speed demons in here?
Becca. You're a speed racer.
Let's hear some of these speed records.
Speed racer.
How fast you guys go?
You don't want to know.
No, I want to know.
Well, my car shuts off at 125.
All right.
I'll just say that.
I beat it.
You beat it?
Oh yeah.
In what?
155?
I went 135 in a Charger. So, but I'm confident.
It's exciting. But yeah, so
Mom,
you might
no
want to
good.
go to kettering then. You can join the formula team. It's awesome. They have like $500,000 to build a car, and it's just basically an aluminum frame with an engine. But all right, back on track. So we're talking about auto liability. We can use that same process with workers' compensation, auto liability, product liability. Like say you're building a car and you see all these recalls. Companies need to plan for that because if you're going to recall a product, that can cost millions of dollars, and it's not something that you can just kind of just here's $50 million and move on with it. Retirement, that's going to be a huge one too. With all these changes in corporate retirement pension or corporate pensions and all that, we have just armies of actuaries that are going through and analyzing the markets for stability and how much money people are going to need to retire, what age people are going to retire at. Healthcare is another huge one. With rising healthcare costs and insurance, I mean, it's very important to manage all of this risk in order for us to have the money, the monetary means to handle it. But again, back to the auto liability. So another thing we can do is I do this thing called predictive modeling, where they'll send us data sets and they'll have geodemographic information about each one of you. Like every time you sign up for an auto insurance policy, you probably give them tons of information from your age to your grades at school and all of that stuff. And you wonder how they get these discounts for like a good grade discount, right? They do.
They do female
Yeah, they have all these discounts. So whenever you sign up for a policy, you give them all this information. And what happened was an actuary actually took all this information and created a model, and we basically made a calculator. So if you say yes, you get this amount of discount, we are the ones that tell them how much less financial impact or more financial impact a certain attribute on a policy will have. So, and I'm just brushing the surface. As you can see, it's really hard to explain what an actuary does. So, do you guys have any questions now? Or?
Do you work as like part of a team or by yourself or?
I do a little bit of both. Right now I'm still an analyst, and I work for a consulting company. So I do all the grunt work and everything, and then a consultant goes in and looks at the numbers that I've compiled for him and picks, because there is a human element to this. You have to pick factors and how things will develop and whatnot. So, yeah. But then again, like retirement, if you're doing retirement for a company like GM, there's going to be, hundreds of people on a team, and you're all collaborating to meet one end goal. So, is anybody interested in doing investment banking or working on Wall Street? Like, what do you want to do?
I don't know, stuff like that.
No, that's probably a pretty common answer. It's like more of like a glamorous thing to, be an investment banker. But a lot of the things that we do as actuaries are the exact same principles, just applied to insurances and liabilities rather than actual investment products. There's another thing that I work on at work. It's called economic capital modeling, and it'll be basically how a company takes their reserves and can plan for future events also while investing, and what type of returns they need to get. So, it's right there. There's a lot of, you're in calculus, everyone's in calculus, right? And you've heard, this stuff is like key to understanding how they come up with these products. There's option pricing models like Black-Scholes, which is all derivatives. It's a mix of derivatives and integrals, which in turn we just call differential equations. So you'll get into that in college if you're interested in that. Yes.
Next slide.
Yeah.
Do you want to run through with them too, since we're kind of talking about the business, how you started as a business major?
So I'll just give them a little rundown of what my path to where I'm at now. I graduated here 2007. I started at Kettering in July 2007, and I immediately became employed with Robert Bosch. They're an automotive supplier. I worked in a marketing department and did I did a lot with math, but it wasn't anything that required really advanced math. After that, I had Mrs. Wilcox for help, and you learn derivatives and integrals and all that basic stuff. So I take my first 2 classes at Kettering. I never had to open my book, just like I didn't in Mrs. Wilcox's class.
Book in my class either.
So it was kind of a last minute deal. And there's all these kids that are struggling in the classes. They had to take pre-calc and all algebra to get up to this, just to take calculus. And I didn't really have to do any homework for those classes either. And my professor comes up to me after class one day and is like, you have this ability to do math. Why not apply it and take advantage of that? Because it's something very powerful, and few people can do math, and also, well, I wouldn't say few people can do math, but it's something that comes easily to people, I guess we'd say. And you guys are all in calculus, so obviously you have the ability. If you've made it this far, you can go as far as you'd like. It just depends on how hard you like to work. But from there, I decided to be a math major. And then in June 2009, my department head approached me and said there's this opening at this company called Towers Perrin that I've never heard of. Turns out it's one of the largest consulting actuary firms in the world. And I went and interviewed with there was 6 other people at the same time I was interviewing. And they told me I had the job, basically on the spot. They called me afterwards, so it wasn't in front of the other 6 people. And it was funny because I was friends with about 3 of the people I was interviewing with, and I felt bad for beating them. But and then what else? And then in about April 2010, I started looking for full-time employment. And so I started attending these dinners for actuaries. And I go to one, and nothing really happened. I just had some conversations with some people. But then the next day, my boss gets a call, and they asked my boss to let me go, like basically fire me so I could go work for them. And so I went and did the interview process with this company, and they gave me a job offer. But it wasn't as much as I was actually, I'd be taking a pay cut. I was working at this insurance company in Southfield. So I decided, I didn't really want to do that, but I didn't have a full-time offer. And that very same day, somebody in the Chicago office resigned. So they had an open head count, and they flew me out to Chicago the next morning. This was like 3 o'clock on a Thursday, and I got on a plane at 7 a.m. on a Friday to Chicago. And they flew me out there, interviewed me. My flight was scheduled for like 6 o'clock that night to come home, and they were like, "Oh well, we'll just pay $500 to bump you up in a 2-hour flight." So, it's kind of luxurious. They just fly you right back. So yeah, and it turns out I get the job in Chicago, and I moved down there in July 2010. And they put me up in a really nice place downtown. I'm a block from Sears Tower. I walk to work every morning, and then I get the full-time offer in August. I just finished up my last term in January 2011. I started the job where I'm at now, at Towers Watson in Chicago. Yeah, it was really fast-paced, and if I would have been a business major, I might have some exciting things happen to me. But math definitely opened up so many doors. I think I used the example earlier of that. I was in a business competition. Are you guys familiar with DECA? I don't know. You said they used to do it. Yeah. Well, there's a collegiate version, and I started competing in those just for fun. And I ended up going to states, and nobody else in the competitions used any technical analysis. And so immediately, I just won first place. I won first place in 3 separate events in that competition, where people are there's a lot of people that don't even place at all, or even make it in the top 10 in their event. So then I go to Louisville, Kentucky, and compete at nationals, and just walked right through first place every time as well. So they put you up on stage, and you have a couple thousand people in front of you, and they give you this big plaque. It's kind of cool. But yeah, I mean it's all definitely attributed to having a technical ability, just to simply understand numbers. Something as simple as proportions. And a lot of people just take that for granted. If you have that ability, you don't want to let that go to waste, because it can open so many doors, and it definitely doesn't close in. So, yes, next slide. So, how many of you guys like money? All right, so we got at least 99% of the room. All right, so
Let me, before you go on, let me backtrack for just a second.
okay.
Go over with them, and I shared this with you guys yesterday about how Ravi was sitting in one of those tables in my room, and he was in your seat, and I thought he got a B- in my class, but he's saying a B+. I don't know if I think he might be trying to fluff it a little bit. But he go through what your GPA was here, what you got on the
Right.
ACT, so that you don't have to be a 36 ACT to end up where he's at.
Yeah, I mean, I came into my senior year, I had less than a 3.0. Kettering told me that I'd be on a 6-month probationary period if I was going to get accepted. They said I had to have a 3.0 to graduate, so I picked up the pace a little, got my GPA to a 3.0, which got me a scholarship as well there. At the end of the year, Mrs. Wilcox told me that she thought I was going to be one of those kids that failed. But she said she was really surprised with me. I remember that distinctly. But I mean, it's. I used to basically, school was, I just kind of came here and sat at my desk and didn't really pay attention. I wish I would have. But the experiences we go through make us who we are tomorrow. So it's not like I'd necessarily change that, but I wish I would have paid more attention, because that would put me all that much more further ahead. I mean, I went to Kettering, and a lot of my friends have 34 ACTs and graduated with. They go to schools where they're enabled to get over a 4.0 GPA. So you have these kids that are getting, top of their class, over 4.0, and they're in no better position than I am today. They were in no better position when I started Kettering than I was. and I don't think they'll be in any better position than I am going to be in the future. You know, it's just because like going to Lapeer West is just as great of an education as going to Cranbrook or Brother Rice. It's all about what you make out of it, because especially like Mrs. Wilcox is a phenomenal resource. As I said, I didn't really even have to do anything in my first 2 calculus classes. It's 2 years of college that I, got to relax and realize where I was headed. And the main thing you take out of college is learning how to learn, not necessarily what your major is. So, would you agree?
I absolutely agree. And your goal, Robbie was going to be the next rock star of Lapeer West.
Yep. I
That
had
was
long hair and a beard.
Yep, he did.
Yeah.
And he was, him and his band, they would rock all night long in the middle of the week, and I could tell the next day when he was up all night long with his band.
Yeah, we used to have band practice before morning. We'd get up at 5 a.m. and go hot tubbing and then play metal, and then come into school. We had some crazy times, So you guys have any questions up till now? ACT score 26. Yeah. So, yeah. See, I think the ACT comes down more to preparation, and I think it's very hard, especially for me. I didn't realize how to learn until I got to college, and I think especially everyone in this calculus class is capable of getting over 30 on the ACT. It's just you have to figure out how to unlock figure out how you learn. And it's really difficult to do. And I know, all throughout high school they try to tell you how to do it, but it's not something that you can be told how to do. You just have to sit there for hours upon hours and realize how to do it. So I think they say being an expert in something takes like 10,000 hours of experience. So I definitely didn't work towards that 10,000 hour goal in high school, study. So but all right, so
Back to the money.
Back to the money, what everyone likes to hear about. So, live in Lapeer, population of about 90,000 people, median income of $51,290. Michigan, population of 9.8 million people with a slightly lower median household income of $45,254. That's household income. So if you're in a household of 5, you're in a household of 2. This is the median income. And median's a pretty decent way to look at it, a lot better than the average. So it's not skewed by people making millions of dollars or people making $0. So, next slide. This is an actuarial salary table. The numbers in the grid are in thousands of dollars. And at the top, that's years of experience. And this over here is the exams. The exam process I can explain after this. It's pretty rigorous, but if you graduate with just this is only a 4-year degree and 0 years of experience. Oh, and sorry, this range is the 10th to 90th percentile. So you're going to end up somewhere in the middle of that range. You're looking at $46,000 to $65,000 directly out of college, which is just fantastic. And after a half a year, you're already up to $53,000 to $67,000, and that's only with one exam. And as I said, these exams are very rigorous, but they kind of take place of grad school. Not a lot of actuaries go to grad school. These exams, like the first one they're all pretty much about 3 hours, and they say it's about 100 hours of studying per exam hour, and then they'll only take the top 30%. So it's not like you get a 70% and you pass. You have to beat 70% of the people taking that exact test. So they're very competitive, but they offer great rewards. Is there any questions about this before I go into it a little more? Or?
Look at the bottom right of his table. He's got a little,
this is
typo there, but
yeah, this is a typo. This is supposed to be a 4. So $176,000 to $478,000 is the 10th to 90th percentile range for somebody with 20 years of experience in all their exams. And that's just a 4-year degree. I finished mine in 3.5 years. So, the earning potential is just out of control if you're willing to put in the work. And the thing is, you don't have to put in the work, and that's something I'm going to get into a little later, is like a career like this is really at your own control, the pace that you progress.
I gave the analogy in the other hours of where a teacher is, just so you can kind of gauge. Probably the average teacher salary here in Lapeer, I would say, is maybe about $60,000. So if you look where Ravi is, show him where you are currently right now since you passed 2 exams.
I'm in the 2 exams and like the half year it's at 2.5 buckets, so it's $56,000 to $74,000.
So he's 22 years old.
Yep.
Okay. He's making at least, if not more, what our teachers are making with a lot more education than what he's done. And I asked Ravi to put himself where he thinks he will be at my age, which is 25. No. 33 years of age, where do you think you're going to be at, Ravi?
So I said, what is that, 11 years of experience or something like that?
Yep.
And then I plan on, the average track is 15 years, but I'm hoping to be done by 25. But I'll be in the 148 to 339 bucket. And I'm sitting for my next exam in November. I've already taken it once and I didn't make it in the top 30, so hopefully I have a better chance of making it this time. But I mean, that'll just move me up another bucket. And that's how it works. You also get little bonuses along the way, and it's really competitive and it's kind of exciting actually. Once you pass, it's an amazing feeling to actually accomplish something that you had to work for.
The analogy of the medical field, Ravi, you would say that probably a starting doctor would first of all have to go to school for like 10 or 12 years past high school, and then probably the average starting doctor makes what?
150, I'd say. And if you're a doctor, you're guaranteed to make 140, but you're already 30 years old by the time you start that. And at 30 years old, I mean, I'll have 8 years of experience and hopefully all of my exams in, and that puts me in the 133 to 217, so right up there. And doctors unless they get into an entrepreneurial endeavor, they really do have a cap. They can't make, if you're a neurosurgeon, maybe you can make $1 million a year if you're like world renowned. But if you're going to get into entrepreneurial, you can definitely break through that barrier. But the same thing goes with this. And as you get up to the upper end, the range is so wide. I mean, that's the bottom 10th percentile is the minimum, and they just have plus signs at the end of those numbers because it's so skewed. Like the upper range is out of control. So. All right. Yeah. Next thing I'm going to talk about the perks. I think that's the next slide. So the perks of the actuary career in specific is the flexible schedule. If I feel like it, I can wake up and go to work at 11 o'clock. Like waking up at the crack of noon. Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm actually an early morning person, but I know a lot of people like that. But yeah, my boss comes in at 11 every day, and as long as you get your work done, you get your work done. And that's a consulting lifestyle. There's also, you can pick the insurance lifestyle where you work 37 hours a week, and you leave your work at work, and they still make really competitive salary to what the consulting lifestyle is. So how many of you guys like to travel? World travel, continental U.S. Yeah, so world. All right. Well, I mean, one of the people I just worked with just resigned and went to Allstate. First day on the job, first week of work, he's spending a week in Zurich, Switzerland, just hanging out, doing orientation for Allstate. I mean, this is just all over the place. Most of the insurance captives in America actually are founded in the Caymans. Lots of people have houses in the Caymans. It's just the opportunities for travel or whatever you'd like. I went to Florida a couple weeks ago. And they pay. And the best thing about traveling with a company is they pay for everything, all of your meals, all of your accommodations. You go work a couple hours while you're there, and then the rest of the time is yours. I had dinner the other night with somebody who went to Shanghai for a couple weeks, and yeah, most of the time she was just talking about seeing the Great Wall of China, all these ridiculous things, and then she worked. I think she did like a 10-hour conference or something like that, and spent a couple weeks there. And all the airfare was paid for, all the accommodations, and it's all usually very luxurious. So opportunities for advancement. We talked about the exam process. Basically, your advancement is in your control. If you wanted to just coast at an entry-level position, you could make $80,000 a year with one exam after you get some experience under your belt. And I know actually people who are consultants who decided just not to take exams, but that's because they work very hard. But if you just want guaranteed advancement, just take some exams. They have set salary rate or increases and bonuses for taking those. My work is pretty fast-paced. Like I I said earlier, I took yesterday off and I took today off. I'm taking tomorrow off, but I already worked 30 hours this week. So it's pretty intense. Lots of long hours and late nights. Or you can work for the insurance companies and have a very regular schedule and just, leave work at work. But I am in a job where I get to take it home. Yeah, the diverse workload. We already went over the workers' compensation, hospital professional liability, predictive modeling, and all those different things are just, you can do something new every day if you like. And the ability to choose is just awesome. I guess it's, autonomous. It's an intrinsic motivation. And I think after you go to college, you're going to start realizing how amazing choices are. Right now, you have a directed path. Right now, you just get through high school and then go to college. But you're going to start to have so many options. It might get a little difficult to choose, but the options will be there, and you're going to want to continue those options because you don't want to just live your life at a home. So, all right, any questions so far? All right, so I put together another slide here. How much do you guys have jobs? How much do you guys make an hour? $7.40. That sounds like a high-paying job because I've been hearing $7.25. No, right. So in order to calculate your annual salary, you usually use a 2,000-hour work year. So basically, you take your hourly wage, multiply it by 2,000. So what I did here is I took some random numbers. A lot of you guys are probably at $7.25 or $7.50. That's right around $14,000 a year, $15,000 a year. The median income in Lapeer, which I'm sure everyone here wants to meet, is $50,000. So that's $25,000 an hour. As you can see graphically, the difference between the annual salary. This is where you guys are at now, and this is where you want to go to hit the median salary in Lapeer. And I did an increase from this is $40,000 a year, and the proportion increase from $20 to $25 is the same thing as going from $7.25 to $9.06. So look at, how every year everyone talks about getting old, get your 5% raise or whatever. The earlier you start making money, and the earlier you start your career and start compounding, the increases you get every year are going to start compounding. Look at the dollar change, or the proportion change. You get this much more for getting that, I think it's like 25%. Yeah, 25% increase from $7.25 to $9.06. But here you get $10,000 more for a 25% increase. And this is like $2,000 or something like that. I think this is $18,000 a year, and this is around $14,400. So $4,000. So basically what I'm saying is that every year that you are earning more money, you're going to be compounding the amount of increases you're getting. And over time, it'll have a tremendous effect when you go to have your ending salary when you're around retirement. And all of that will just be astronomical.